The movie begins with two sisters, Jessica and Angela, hiding as a siren is heard from the street. They were running from the police and mobsters. Just a week ago, they were strangers, but now they're bound together by the mysterious suitcase they carry. Flashback to before their paths crossed. Angela was in daycare, struggling to tell a story to a group of inattentive children. Meanwhile, Jessica starts her first day as a waitress, learning the ropes from a coworker who shows her how to serve drinks. Later that evening, Jessica went back to her house. It was filled with pregnant women that her mother teaches Lamaze classes to. She walked past them and went to the bathroom, but her moment of peace was disturbed when one of the women got into labor. At the same time, Jessica receives a call informing her of her father's death. Angela, who also heard of her father's death, is in the hospital. Jessica also went to the hospital and found Angela there for the first time. They got called to identify the body, but neither recognizes him because Jessica doesn't know him, and Angela hasn't seen him in 15 years. Just as confusion sets in, their father's secretary, Inesita Alvarez Balesta, arrives and confirms his identity. As they walked out of the room, Inesita told them that their father, Dr. Ernesto, was caught in a bribery scandal. But Ernesto is an honest man and would never get into such things. Jessica was eager to find out if their father had left anything for them. Inesita told them there was an apartment in his name, and then left the girls alone. Jessica introduced herself, but Angela walked away without saying anything. The next day, their father's funeral was held. The secretary introduced them to the other mourners. Among them were mayors Omar Chichi and Ezekiel Barzanak. They offered their condolences and told the girls to reach out if they needed anything. Inesita later took the girls to Ernesto's apartment. It was a luxurious place, and they were amazed to see it. Inesita explained that it was a smart apartment controlled by a tablet and showed them how it worked. Inesita got a call and had to leave suddenly. Jessica said she wanted to stay, and Angela also decided to stay, saying the apartment would be theirs eventually. Inesita agreed, but reminded them that the inheritance process would take years because of the lawsuit against their father. Before leaving, Inesita warned them not to cause any trouble. After she left, Angela started looking through her father's belongings and found a picture of them together. When she went back downstairs, Jessica was already settled and drinking. Angela told her they couldn't just start living there. They started arguing, and Angela made it clear she didn't want anything to do with Jessica. She said they couldn't be friends or sisters, and that once the inheritance was sorted, they would sell the apartment and split the money. While speaking, Angela tried to close the curtains using the tablet. As she tries to figure it out, a compartment in the wall opens, revealing a stack of money. Jessica reached for it, but Angela stopped her, saying she might leave fingerprints. Angela closed the compartment, and they both left the apartment. In the elevator, Angela gave Jessica her number and took hers. As they were leaving, Jessica insisted on having the entrance key, so they played rock, paper, scissors for it. They kept throwing the same sign, and out of frustration, Angela decided to give Jessica the key. Back at her home, Angela took a pregnancy test. Before she could see the result, her husband, Marcelo, walked in. She quickly hid the kit and spoke to him as if everything was fine. After he left, she looked at the test and saw that she was not pregnant. Meanwhile, Jessica was looking through Ernesto's corruption case. Her mother walked in and asked for money. Jessica told her that she hadn't been paid yet. Her mother then asked about her father's funeral and whether she was included in the will. Jessica angrily accused her of only caring about money. At work, Jessica became overwhelmed by the workload. Later that night, the two sisters went back to the apartment. They opened the hidden compartment and discussed what to do with the money. Angela was afraid to use the money, thinking it might have been stolen, but Jessica insisted they should use it since they weren't the ones who stole it. Unable to agree, they decided to grab a meal and went out. Jessica showed Angela a few bucks she had taken from the apartment, and they went to a fancy restaurant instead. While eating, Mayor Ezekiel greeted them and invited them to his table for champagne after their meal. He assured them that he had been a close friend of their father. He then pointed at a man and introduced him as Mr. Osterfil. The name immediately rang a bell for Angela. Ezekiel made a cryptic remark about keeping their secret and left the table. Angela quickly got up and said they should leave. When they tried to pay, the waiter told them their bill had already been covered by Mr. Osterfil. After leaving the restaurant, Angela told Jessica that Mr. Osterfil had been accused of involvement in the bribery scandal their father was part of. Now, he had paid for their dinner, likely to make them accomplices. Jessica tried to calm her down, but Angela wasn't having it. She explained that although she was struggling financially, she would rather face her hardships than deal with the guilt and fear the money brought. Despite Angela's serious tone, Jessica wasn't paying attention. Her eyes were fixed on a shoe behind Angela. Angela angrily walked away, but Jessica caught her by the arm and told her that the source of the money didn't matter because they needed it. Angela was afraid, thinking it would cause them trouble, but Jessica was determined. The next day, Angela texted Jessica, saying they would use the money but should set some rules first. They agreed to meet at the apartment at 5 and went about their day. Later, They met at a mall to buy what they needed with the money they had taken from the apartment. Angela warned Jessica not to overspend or draw attention, and they split up to shop separately. When they met up afterward, Jessica was carrying a lot of shopping bags, while Angela had only 2. Jessica called Angela's bags pathetic, and they went back for more shopping. By the end of the spree, the girls were struggling to carry all their bags. When they reached the apartment, they got into the elevator. A neighbor, Daniel Severino, a reporter on a TV program, joined them with his dog. As they rode up, Jessica casually mentioned the phone she had bought, saying it would take 12 days to pay off. Angela immediately told her to stop talking. When they arrived at their apartment, Angela was worried their neighbor might expose them since he had seen them with all the bags, but Jessica brushed it off. Shortly after, Jessica suggested they order sushi. After eating, they lay down, talking and laughing. Angela noticed Jessica had bought the exact same jacket as her and teased her about it. Angela then remembered she had to teach the next day and sighed in frustration. Jessica suggested she skip work so they could go shopping again, but Angela reminded her that this wasn't their life and they couldn't just abandon their responsibilities. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. The girls froze, wondering who it could be. Angela asked, and the person replied that it was Daniel from the 24th floor. Hearing this, the girls panicked. Angela blamed Jessica for being careless. Jessica suggested bribing him, and after a quick argument, they decided to open the door. Daniel asked if they were relatives of Ernesto and offered his condolences. He then explained that their father had left him an item, and he was there to collect it. The girls told him there was nothing with his name on it. He left, looking at them suspiciously, and told them to let him know if they found it. The next day, the girls returned to work. Jessica's boss called her aside and told her that when customers order a combo, she should say normal or basic, instead of basic or normal, to make them choose the more expensive option. Jessica went back out to take orders, but suddenly decided to quit. She removed her hat and apron, gathered her belongings, and walked out of the restaurant. At the school, Angela showed another teacher a picture of her and her father. Jessica called Angela and complained that they were the only fools not stealing while everyone else was doing it. As they were on the phone, Angela saw Mayor Omar Chichi coming toward the class she was in. She told Jessica about it and quickly hung up. He entered the class and greeted her. He explained that he needed to go to her father's apartment to pick up an item. When Angela asked what it was, he said it was something for the campaign and asked if he could go himself if she gave him the key. However, the key to the apartment was with Jessica. They agreed to meet that night at the apartment, and Chichi left. Later that night, Angela told Jessica that the money wasn't actually stolen, it was campaign money, and that Chichi was coming to collect it. Jessica suggested they keep some of the money for themselves, but Angela was against the idea. While Angela went to the bedroom to put away clothes, Jessica left a note and disappeared. Angela found the note on the table that said, "Blame me." She opened the compartment and saw that half of the money was gone. Jessica had gone to an amusement park with the money in a suitcase. Angela caught up to her and told her she couldn't just run away. Jessica replied that she had nothing to stay for and wanted to start over. Angela told her they needed to be smart about it, and they sat down to plan their next move. To build trust, Angela suggested they share their deepest secrets. Neither of them could think of anything at first, but after a while, Angela admitted that she hates kids. Even though she teaches kindergarten, she confessed that she doesn't like the kids there. Jessica then asked why her boyfriend calls her Piru. Angela explained that as a child, she had been depressed and set a fire, and Piru is short for pyromaniac. Angela noticed 2 men following them. They quickly got up to leave but spotted David approaching with his dogs, so they ran into a car store. Jessica suggested they buy a car, and they began test driving one. While in the car, they saw David and Ezekiel together. When asked how they planned to pay for the car, they told the seller they would pay in euros. Suspicious, the seller called the police. They quickly fled the store with police cars chasing them. They stopped by a building where Jessica shared her secret. She told Angela she had created another life in her head where she was a singer. Suddenly, Angela got a call. She looked at a screen and saw Marcelo working as a guard. She told him she wasn't coming back to the house and left with Jessica. They stopped to get a taxi, and Jessica found a picture of their father and Angela. She asked Angela to throw the picture away, saying their father never cared for them and was a bad person. They argued about it, and Jessica took her share of the money and left. Angela sat alone and noticed David, Ezekiel, and Mr. Osterfield talking nearby, but they left without noticing her. Meanwhile, Jessica went to the airport but was caught during a security check. Later, Angela saw the same picture she carried in an ad for a travel agency, and realized it wasn't actually of her and her father. She burned the picture, and when she turned around, she saw Jessica in a police car. Angela went to the station and realized Jessica was in big trouble. She tried to bribe the officers but failed miserably. Eventually, she decided to just open the suitcase and give them the money to get Jessica out. They returned to the apartment and found Inesita and Chichi waiting. They went inside, relieved to learn that Chichi was there for another document and not the money. After they left, Inesita returned and told them the judge had ordered an auction on the apartment, so they had to evacuate. In the following days, Angela went to deliver money to Jessica's mother, while Jessica delivered money to Angela's colleagues. Finally, the two sisters moved to a beachside home and lived their happy life to the fullest. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.